I'm Christopher Hine, and today we're going to talk about the Nagaywaza. So, I made a Nagaywaza overview. I've been talking about Nagaywaza different lately, and I think it's a good way to talk about it. So, I'm going to give you the new way I kind of talk about it, and then I'm going to make some videos specifically talking about each of the 7 orthodox Nagaywaza and how those play out with this system that I'm going to give you for talking about the Nagaywaza. So that's it. I'm going to call Josh over here to work. Josh? All right. So let's talk about the Nagaywaza. I've already given you guys a Nagaywaza overview and talked basically about how I think about the Nagaywaza, and I think there are 7 orthodox Nagaywaza. So Kokyu Nage, Kaiten Nage, Koshi Nage, Kodagaish, Irimi Nage, Shiho Nage, and Juji Nage. So those are not, of course, all the throws that exist in Aikido. There's tons of other throws, right? Tenchi Nage is a good example. A lot of styles have Tenchi Nage. Sumi-otosh, Mai-otosh, Hiki-otosh. Tons of other throws that you see in Aikido styles. But those 7, you're kind of hard-pressed to not find some variation of those. And they might use a different name, but the way those throws play out, they exist kind of in all Aikido styles. So once I kind of figured that out, I geared all of my training basically towards those 7, and those are the main throws we learned in the school. And, you know, about a little more than a year or so back, about the time actually that I was working on the Nagaywaza overview, I was kind of thinking about why are those, you know? And the thoughts have kind of come through my head at different times, and now I just kind of have a different way to talk about it, and I'm just working into this new way of talking about it, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So let's look at our basic positions that we have, right? So we have Mu Hanmi, and that's without Hanmi, and I'm square to Josh, and in an Aikido situation, this is the worst position, and the reason for that's simple. Josh is going to be stronger and better than me, so he's going to beat me in this position. So I always want some kind of positional advantage. So the first thing that's not terrible in Aikido is a Hanmi, right? Okay, and so from Hanmi, we have Gyaku Hanmi and I Hanmi, depending on how I'm aligned to him, right? Okay, then an improved position from that's Hitomi, side by side, and there's, you know, several ways to do Hitomi, but we're side by side. And then Irimi, the best position, I'm behind him, okay? Now, when we're looking at our Nagaywaza, what is it we're trying to do? So in Nagaywaza, we are trying to move someone away from us. That's what Nage means, to project away. And because of the way we think about martial arts, we tend to think that throwing, Nagaywaza, has to do with throwing something on the ground, right? But that's kind of weird because in English, if I say throw something, no one throws it like that, right? Everyone almost always throws it out. Okay, so projecting something out is another way to do Nagaywaza, and I've talked about this before, but I think it's important to understand when I'm doing Nagaywaza, I just want someone away from me. That's the whole purpose of Nagaywaza. So if we ask, why might I need to do Nagaywaza? Well, it's because other stuff's not working out for me, and they're close to me. Now, they're going to be close to me in one of those positions we just talked about, right? Okay, for the purpose of the Nagaywaza and the way I'm going to talk about it right now, we're going to look at Mu Hanmi and Hanmi about in the same situation. And they're really not very good because I'm still on this frontal plane of Josh where Josh has got a lot of power. So yes, it's a little better for me here, and I need to at least be in this position to be doing some kind of Aikido stuff. It's always the first place I'm getting, but it's not hugely better for me. This is significantly better, right? So Josh is much more weakened in this state, and then this, of course, is way better. In Aikido, we're working throws from the most common position, which I believe in Aikido is going to be in just turn Hitomi, side by side. Okay? And it's because this is what we're likely to get into when we're doing stuff. If you wrestle around with weapons, you'll find yourself in this position all the time, right? If you're doing rondori, you're going to find yourself in this position all the time. So this is where the majority of our throws come from. And we have fewer throws back here and fewer throws up here. Okay, so I know I'm taking a long time to get here, but I'm setting this up so you guys can follow along. There are only 2 major Aikido throws that happen from this frontal position. Okay? Those throws are Koshi Nage and Kaiten Nage. Those are the major throws that happen from here. If Josh is overwhelming me on this line, right? So, he's overwhelming me on this line. I have basically 2 options. One, he's overwhelming me like this, where he's high and I go low. And this sets up our Koshi Nage, right? Okay. Or he's overwhelming me and he's going low, and that's our Kaiten Nage. Okay, so that's why we have 2 throws from the front position. I can't get out of the front position. And Josh is either going to be a high Josh or a low Josh. If he's a high Josh, I go low. That gives me an advantage. He falls over me. That's koshi nage. Or Josh is going to try to get under me, and I do kaita nage by turning, and that gives us kaita nage. So there's only 2 throws that happen from here. Now, when we're investigating forms and trying to understand how stuff works, this a lot of times confuses us and makes us go to a bad position. So for example, if we were doing katate dori koshi nage, in order to do katate dori koshi nage, I have to go to a worse position than I was in and then do my throw, okay? The problem with that is we think that the throw for some reason is more important than the position we're in, and that's not true. Because actually what's happening is I'm not going here. Josh is coming here to get me. And as he comes here to get me, I let him come to get me, and that gives me a koshi nage. Sorry, it was violent and you weren't prepared for that. But so I was watching. So oh, my mic pack. That was sweet of you. Anyway, so the koshi nage comes from him coming around to get me better, right? So that's what he's looking for, is to come around and get me better. So that's why I have to do koshi nage, okay? We could also be at an inside position like this, and Josh tries to get under my arm, and then that's what sets up our kaita nage. So the frontal position has koshi nage and kaita nage. So if you start to understand that, it's like, well, if I'm stuck in that position, the way I project someone away is either I go low and they go over the top, or they go low and I go on top and do kaita nage by turning. Okay, now the side-by-side position. There's a ton of things that are going to happen from this. Now, we will again get kaita nage. So if Josh came low from this position, I do kaita nage, right? So that works just the same from hitomi. It's our basic technique for low stuff. However, we're going to get a lot of other throws from here as well. Kokyu nage is our main throw from here. This throw coming through like this, right, where I'm shearing his hips in half. Okay, now that can be done this way, and this is going to look tricky because it's going to look like an irimi nage for a second, and I believe a version of irimi nage does this. But I could also do it like this, right? So either way, where I'm facing same side as him or opposite him, by throwing my hips through his, I start to knock him away from me, right? Now understand, I don't care if he falls. If he just stumbles away when I do this, I got the distance I want, right? So that's very valuable to me. So our main throw from hitomi is going to be kokyu nage. That's going to be an important throw. Okay, but what if he had something in his hand and I had to check it, or I had something in my hand and he wants to check it, right? Then we're going to get a lot of other throws. So for example, let's say he was holding this hand, so we went to gyaku, right? Maybe I came over here, bang, and I tried to get him off with a rokyo or something, it doesn't work. If I switched and put the knife in this hand and come here, we're going to get all juji stuff, right? Same situation, if I had his hand here and I'm going to do rokyo, and he comes to attack me high with that other hand, then we're going to go here and we're going to get juji again. So juji's the throw we're going to go to from hito and me if we're striking and holding a hand, right? That's the throw that's going to happen. That's juji nage, our arms become entangled. Now what if I'm isolating a hand, okay? So I could be isolating a hand like this, and we're going to get kotegaishis from that, right? So meaning I need to get this guy away from me, but I got to hold this hand when I do it. I'm going to tear at it this way, and that's going to give me a projection. He's going to stumble away from me that way while I'm checking for this hand, right? Same would be true if he had my hand in some kind of configuration, right? And I came up here like this, and I get a kotegaish, right? So we're isolating a hand. And the same is true for shihonage if we're isolating a hand and continuing sotomori to the backside. So if I'm isolating his hand here and I want to turn to the backside, we get a shihonage for it. And if he was holding me, exactly the same thing, and I turn to the backside, and we get a koshinage for it, or shihonage for it, right? So shionages are going to appear because we're isolating a hand. Kotegaishis are going to appear because we're isolating a hand. Jujinages are going to appear because we're holding one hand and attacking with the other hand. Kokyu nages are going to happen simply because we're in side-by-side position, hitomi. And kaita nages are going to happen because he goes low from here, right? So now we understand all those throws that happen and why they would happen and where they come from. So this position should immediately start alerting you to these things are going to become available. The last set we have in that is irimi nage. So irimi nages are throws that happen when I get here behind. Okay, now the classic irimi nage that we talk about always looks kind of like this. I pull him down. I'm watching my mic here. I come across the top and I step through, and that's the one we see a lot. Now that can happen for one of a few reasons, right? One is I just do what I think the most basic irimi nage is, which is to pull him down from here like this, okay? Another could be Josh is turning and I lock his head in place and he throws himself off balance because his head can't turn as his body turns, okay? And the other one is a kokyu nage, really, I believe, which is I'm moving his hips out of the way as I'm in that position, right? So those three are all apparent in that one version of irimi nage, but really any throw that happens from the irimi position. Now we only have one throw, done a few different ways, but the reason for that is I'm in the dominant position. Most of the time I don't need to worry about knocking him away from me, and the main irimi nage we see is an irimi nage that keeps him from turning and taking away my irimi position, right? So, and that's the one where I lock his head in place and we classically see a lot. So if you use this kind of positional ranking system to start understanding the throws, it will be more apparent when the throws come out, right? So this is a new way I'm working on talking about it. I'm actually gonna make a set of videos for you guys on each one of these throws individually from this positional situation stuff, and so you'll be seeing them over the next 7 weeks, I guess. So I'm gonna make a series of those for you and talking about how those throws really play out and what I think about those throws and all that stuff. But this is the overview for how I'm now talking positionally about the Nagaywaza. I'm Christopher Hines, Joshua Teehee, Maya Solano McDaniels behind the center camera right there, and we'll see you in the next video.